Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Paranormal Podcast. Yes, it's another Tuesday, and we have an awesome guest that's on Beyond the Paranormal Podcast. But first, I'm going to introduce my co-hosts. Go ahead, ladies, take it away.
Hi, I'm RhiAnna.
Hey, everybody. I'm Critina Creepshow.
And also, please, folks, get out and subscribe to our YouTube page. And
Where'd Martha go?
We lost Martha already. Oh, no, we lost her.
No.
Here we go. Technical issues already. She'll be back. Anyway, get out and subscribe to our YouTube page, Beyond the Paranormal Podcast. We would tremendously appreciate it. And, well, Martha's back. We told you she'd be right back. So there you go. Today's guest is Martha Decker, I should say, who has spent many nights alone in one of the most haunted locations in Texas, which is the Haunted Hill House. Martha has authored a series about the house. Book 1 is out entitled Where Spirits Speak, and is working on book number 2. The Haunted Hill House was direct ties to the Baker Hotel and was a brothel supplying working girls and bootleg for the Baker at one point. Several deaths in the house happened during this time. The house is reported to be inhabited by 9 spirits. They have intelligent hauntings, residual hauntings, and plus visitations from the Baker Hotel. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about, and about 50% are able to make it through the night, including professional paranormal teams. They do leave as well. So Martha, you've got an interesting location here that you actually have been part of for a long time. So we're going to talk about all this. So how you been doing, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. And I've been obviously doing well. In Bryan's then, and stayed in a haunted hotel next to a haunted restaurant bar, which is next to another haunted bar.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
I mean, yeah, we stayed at the LaSalle Hotel, boutique hotel, and it has 7 floors, but it has lots of ghosts in it.
Oh, geez.
So then the place next to it was, I think All the King's Men was the name of it. Barbecue and craft beer. Yeah.
Nice.
It was nice, but we actually went out there for a MUFON get together for sky watching. Is how we ended up going to Bryan. Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, go out there for UFO sightings. There you go. We'll talk about that a little bit here too. Give us just a little bit of background on the Haunted Hill House. Exactly some information on it for those who are not familiar with this location, because to me, this is, from all the research I've done for the past years, to me, this is one of the most paranormal activity places, for Texas. And to me, I mean, it's got some poltergeist activity too. A lot of crazy stuff happens in this place. So give us a bit of background on it, Martha, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, the house was built 1860, 1870. Initially, they thought it was going to be maybe 1890s, possibly 80s, but Donna McCauley is actually the historian for the house, but she's also the historian for the city of Weatherford and for Parker County. So she knows how to dig. Mm-hmm. And she's also been working with some productions with Prometheus Studios. They do one of the things they do is Beyond Oak Island. Mm-hmm. And they just did a piece. Yeah, they just did a piece a couple weeks ago. It was out over at Hill House. Sam Bass Gold is what they think could be over there in the East Mountain, which is behind the house. Mm-hmm. But they were checking in. Well, they were checking in the fireplace in the house too. That's the place, been a makeshift hospital. It's been a brothel. It's been a, private home. There's some possible, we think there was some, occult activity at the house, murders at the house, natural deaths at the house, probably pretty sure there's a basement, and then there's an empty lot next door that's theirs, that the city had torn down the house, and they took up a bunch of topsoil, and they took up, we're talking, they took the pipes and everything out of this house. They didn't leave anything in the ground. But there's probably a basement over there too.
Hmm.
So we are okay. Stop, computer. Doesn't need to do that.
Exercise the computer now.
Mhm.
Crit's always wanting to exercise something. If I'm sick,
I'm ready. I've got an old priest and a young priest on standby. Let's go.
Well, let me tell you, I was over at the house with Sonny and Kathy. Sonny wasn't in there. We were in the scratch room there, in the scratch room. And that's another one of the false fireplaces. So they were there. I think, Ryan, there was about 4 of us in the room, or 4 or 5. And Kathy's like trying to follow what psychics have told her, the spirit boxes, and all of those EVPs they pick up when nobody's in the house, where they actually tell them things. They leave messages for Kathy, especially. And
oh my gosh,
I know it's crazy. And so through all that, we were thinking, mate, under the house. Let me back up. The house was more of an A-frame at one time, and has been added on and added on. There was a judge that came. Well, he wasn't a judge. Judge was his name, but he came in, acted like a judge, and there were a lot of wells, in mineral wells, and he came through and decided that all the wells needed to be covered and shut. So the house, as it sits now, is sitting on top of one of those wells. They had at least 2 wells on the property. One's in the backyard that were actually probably the first wells in town. And crazy, you can go to a crazy water place and get the water. But just to have in their information saying that they have the very first well, and that it was a lady drinking Renfro, and that was the owners of the house at the time. That was a lady's sister, and she lived. So Deborah Renfro lived in that house. But one of the houses over one of the wells, and there's an area underneath that nobody can get, man-made, more like a square than a circle under the house. We think possibly that was the well. And so Kathy and Sonny are digging, not Kathy and Sonny, but Kathy and Donna are digging through all this stuff in the fake well, going through sand and rock. And as they're pulling stuff out, trying to go through and see underneath the floor, it sounded like if you're in an apartment and the people down below you don't like the noise you're making, and they're going to go boom, boom with a.
Yeah.
Right. That happened many times in college.
That in the house, in that room, the whole floor is like boom, boom, boom.
Jeez.
And you could feel the vibration, and everybody's eyes got really big.
I can imagine.
Like, wow. Does that mean, you're getting closer, or you better stay away? We don't know, but she's still digging. And so in the episode with the house on Beyond Oak Island, they went in, and Gypsy, who is a metal detector, and does that for law enforcement, like the FBI and different things. She's been on a bunch of the Prometheus shows, golf shows like Gold and everything. So she was in with that, and she actually climbed down into the well part. She got down because they had dug it out several feet, 2, 3, probably about 3 feet. And there's a little spot in there that they're maybe coming back for the show to redo a new thing, but where you could kind of see through. So put one of those cameras through there and see if it's a void. We were doing that in the backyard a couple of weeks ago in an area that just showed up that might be one of the caves, because the story with Sam Bass is he may have hidden his gold in one of the caves on that mountain.
Oh, wow.
So,
that's awesome. So Catherine and Eddie,
that's it. The house with all the murders and all the murders. And and that's actually been intensifying quite a bit.
Wow.
Yeah. Last night they had
Go ahead. Go ahead, Martha.
I didn't hear your question.
Oh, go ahead. Go. You're fine.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought you were asking a question, but I couldn't hear it.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So, the guy last night that was.
You said things were picking up at the location now recently?
Yes. Well, it's been ramping up this past year, but I mean, it keeps ramping and ramping and ramping where you could hear things with your EVPs and you could still hear, because I've heard audible there. You hear the audible. It's getting all the time. And there was a guy last night that stayed by himself that because this is, it's not a place for a beginner or somebody that's never experienced any of that, really, to go by themselves. And he stayed in the kitchen pretty much all night. He said Kathy had advised him, it's not a good idea. I want to come. So he went and he did stay through the night, but he was in the kitchen pretty much all night and said that, yeah, you were right. I should have brought somebody with me and not been by myself, because people have been leaving that house when they get there now. There was some people the other night and some of them wouldn't even go in the house. They pulled up in the back on the drive. They wouldn't get out. And they left and went back to hotel while the others stayed there.
Do people ever talk about
it's
leaving
just
with leaving
insane
with
right now. You hear, I've got some things that I'll post on my TikTok, little short things where you're hearing things really clearly using.
Who are we waiting on?
Do they ever talk about what?
Has anybody ever talked about leaving with attachments? Has that been an issue there?
I didn't hear what you said.
I think we have a delay.
Hello?
Yeah.
Well, she asked me a question, but I couldn't hear it.
Martha, I was just asking if people ever have issues with leaving with an attachment.
Oh, well, it has happened. A few people have at times. That's why they're there and they stay in the back in their travel trailer when people are there in case anything happens. But she prays and puts oil on their foreheads before they leave the house, unless they absolutely do it. And she does the same thing with her vehicles. And that's just standard with Kathy. And some people have had attachments. Some of them she's called, or things have followed them more than an attachment necessarily. And they've called her and Kit's put on speakerphone and she calls them back to the house. It's crazy. You need to come back. But there's times where the people have actually had to come back to the house to bring whatever went with them back. And it doesn't happen very often, but it has happened mostly to somebody like that. Yeah, I know, that's crazy.
Now, when you say that, and to me, this is like a big Disneyland of research for paranormal teams who have been in it for a very long time. It's not for these, I want to go to a haunted house. No, it's not for you all. But I saw a video, and it's on the website, where I think they said Dr. Jaeger. I could be right, or Judge Jaeger. I mean, he just, whoever it was, pulled that lady out of the bed. I mean, just yanked her right out of the bed. I've never seen anything like that before in my life. So how dominant or prominent is he at that location? Does he make his presence known in big ways?
Definitely. No. We don't have any idea who did that or what did that. We don't know because the doctor, mostly we don't really know much about him at all. His wife will be seen in the house, but we don't know what yanked her off the bed. That could have been something more like Toby with the force that happened. And when she and her group came in, they came in with all kinds of like 666 and all sorts of those kind of tattoos, right? And they were in their 20s, but they were all, we're Satanist type thing is what they were, wannabe type, really. And when that happened to her, and then her boyfriend came back in, and I don't know if you saw that, where he came in like, oh, you want to pick on a woman? Well, why don't you have some of me or something? And he got like punched into the wall. Not as severe as her, but he did. And they actually wanted to try to recreate, see if it would happen again. I think it was last month, sometime recently. So they had invited them back, and they wanted them to bring the exact same group of people that they had when they were there, because they were trying to recreate with the same thing, the same people, don't bring any new people. And they ended up coming in minus some of the people were there, and they brought some of their friends so nothing happened, but they were trying to just recreate same night, same time, a year later, just trying to figure it out.
So let me ask you this though. When an entity sees that and they had the markings, stuff like that, the tattoos and things, to me, that makes me feel like those spirits wants to be respected, and they want people to come in that house and be respectful. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that's kind of like a watcher.
The funny thing, or really the interesting thing, and these aren't the first people that this has happened to. They have actually been they leave believing in Jesus and more or less converted to Christianity, if you want to say. Because the house showed them that it's real. It's like, oh, this stuff is real. It's different when it's on TV, and a lot, there's so many places you go and it's mostly residual, or it might be just, an old man, an old lady, an EVP, and and that's about it. Fairly normal. And when they're actually confronted with things that are not what they expect, and I cannot tell you how many paranormal teams have left in the middle of the night. Even paranormal is what they're there for, and they have their teams. But some of those people some of them are really seasoned, and some of them, get together and they have a team to go ghost hunting, and and that's what they think it's going to be. We're coming here for fun and games, and then they realize that it's not a game, and that it's not, it's not a fun and games thing. I am out of focus, aren't I? Sort of. I bet I have a smear on that camera. So sorry about that.
You're fine.
I have missing time for being in that house.
Oh yeah.
I had about an hour and a half that I don't know what happened.
Really? Kind of like
one night. And there was a group of people there that night. That was the one night I was scratched at the house. And blood poured down my arm. And they say for about an hour and a half, I was just, it was weird.
Like catatonic, or
because in my mind, no time was missing. This stuff happened. I went out to the kitchen where other people were, and Kathy said that I guess I must have been not enough for them to notice, but I was in there. It's like I was sitting there holding my phone, and Kathy said, "Hey, come in here," because it was an event that was going on that night, and about an hour and a half later, I came in there like nothing, like it had been just a couple of minutes. And I still, you know, if I didn't have a bunch of people telling me that, I wouldn't believe that. So I don't know what was going on for that hour and a half.
Jeez.
It's just an hour and a half.
I don't think there's anything scarier than either losing control of your body or losing track of time.
Yeah, and I kind of found it fascinating that I did lose. It's like, where did I go?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what was going on? And so I'm more curious than scared.
Do you think though?
But it was more of, they're calling them time now. But there was no, I didn't feel like I was asleep or anything. It was just, everything just boom, 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 one thing after another with no difference in time.
But do you think though, Martha, these spirits are so comfortable with you that they wanted to get away?
You know, and I also got scratched and bit that night too, right after, and that happened right after that.
Hang on, my question to go through. It's a big delay.
Mm-hmm. Can you hear us right now?
I don't know. I don't know. I know the little kids get excited when I come over to the house. And Toby was acting like a child at one point. I know it was him because I had several different experiences where I think kid they're wanting to get a reaction out of me and not getting one.
What's the reaction from locals there about the Haunted Hill House? What's their reaction to it, and just the history of the location of the property there locally? What do they all think about it?
Like there's a delay tonight.
Yeah, there's a big delay.
John and Marie, are you all really able to hear?
Am I what?
Are you guys able to hear me like real time, or is it delayed?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just
Yeah, we got you good.
Okay. Just checking.
RhiAnna, did you freeze?
Nope. We have a listener from Brazil. I think that's cool.
Catching the question.
Break out the turtle wax, speed up those modems. Yeah, we're trying, folks. I apologize. There's just a big delay here for some reason. I don't know why. But we are trying this for sure. It's nobody's fault. We're definitely trying. And
Plus, Martha talking a little bit about the book that she's got out and what people can expect to read about if they use that.
Okay. Well, the first edition has a little bit of the history in the book. It has it's got in there why Kathy and Sonny bought the house, why Phil bought the house, why Phil's the house. It has my experience when I was working on the book that summer. I went and spent several days in the house, and then so I have breakout of when things happen while I was there. I was there not to investigate, but to see what it would be like if I was living there. And it was really quiet until Toby did what he did. So Toby, when I and And I hear Toby doing it and growling all the time. And it's like if somebody gets afraid or scared or something, I go, it's just Toby. It's not a big deal. and so I was sound asleep, and I've got this hissing in my face, waking me up. It's so loud to wake me up. But I ignored it like it was a kid, go away, and just went back to sleep. No, I didn't even open my eyes. And then several months later, I was there by myself again, and I was sleeping in the axe room. Only thing is, as soon as I got in bed and got comfortable, so I'm still fully wide awake, my eyes were closed. Toby was hissing at me then, but it was like his face was like next to my face, and like you could feel the spittle if it had been there, and the wind from the air, And so I was fully. I ignored that one.
Wow.
I just didn't react. And a lot of times, that's it. Don't react, and then so that was it. They're doing the stuff with the book, and it had been real quiet, and it was late at night, and I had shut my computer, turned off the TV, and I'm about ready to get up from the kitchen. I'm in the kitchen, and all of a sudden, from upstairs, was the loudest combination of a hiss, growl, roar, scream, you name it. I couldn't describe it all at once, just really loud, like shake the house kind of loud. Wow. And so what I did was, it's like, wow. So I go and they have a curtain that's in the door for the kitchen. Mm-hmm. I pulled that thing back, looked up there, and I yelled back, "Yeah, I heard you. So what?" and then I but still your adrenaline's gone, because it wasn't a scare, but it was a startle. It was unexpected, right? So he finally got that reaction, and I'm going outside, and one of their blink cameras with audio faces the front door, and I'm going to the door, and I'm calling Kathy. We had just been texting, so I called Kathy just to let her know what's going on. And as I walked past to the door, it set off their security camera, and I'm going out, and Sonny tells Kathy, while I'm still trying to unlock all the locks on the door, the EVP, when I started the camera by passing it, that he picked up an EVP that said, "Look, Toby made her turn red. He'll get her later."
Oh, wow.
And I was going out front because sit down there, calm down, and then, go back in and go to bed. And Kathy had Julie and Sonny, they totally freaked them out. They were afraid this happened to me. So they called Julie and her son Ryan because they live a couple minutes away, to come over. So they came and stayed for a while at the house. And it's like, no, you can't go investigate anything. You just have to sit here, Ryan, or just go to sleep here, because I didn't want to change the environment in the house with investigating.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard that from Toby, except one night I didn't feel good.
Martha, when did the actual owners, the new owners, feel free or feel okay to let people come in and start investigating? Because, this is, like we said previously, this is not for your beginners. When did they feel safe that it was okay for seasoned veterans to come in to do this?
They bought the house in May, and by that fall, they had connected with somebody who they thought was a good person and was going to do a Halloween events. But when they first got the house, first thing they did was have it leveled. So Kathy was sitting out in what's now Priscilla's room, but it was a 3 covered porch. And I think she was in there and sitting, and the guys were doing the leveling, and there was a wheelbarrow near, and the first thing that happened to her was the wheelbarrow picked up and was tossed at her.
Good Lord.
And I remember she called Maria Santa Elena's Kemp good friends of both Maria and I, and Kathy are all good friends. And she had called Maria about what happened. Maria is a psychic medium. And when she told Maria about it, it was all freaked out. It was, Maria was kind of like, well, what did you expect? You bought a haunted house. And a bunch of things happened that day too. So by that fall, though, they were hooked up and doing like a haunted house in a haunted house. And things were happening to people there. People were getting locked into the closet in the scratch room.
Jeez.
It's haunted
but
house.
After that, did a couple of this one person, but didn't really like her attitude or didn't like, because she's big on doing the fun houses. And this isn't a fun house. And she also damaged the house too by stapling things to the original wood doors and into the plaster. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So, but then they started doing some tours where they had somebody, myself included, would be in different rooms, and they're actually doing one of these tours at the end of the month, where you come in and small groups, like 6 to 8 people, and they literally go room to room, and somebody's in there to have some equipment that they can see if they don't know, and they do some stuff, but they talk about what's like attached to that house, and I was always in the scratch room because that was the dangerous room, which I like the dangerous rooms. Give me that.
RhiAnna does too.
And of course, my background with being former law enforcement, I think, it takes a lot to scare me.
Sure.
Although for a while there, the house didn't like law enforcement. Because not long after that, Greg Lawson, who is with the sheriff's department out of Travis County, where Austin is, and he stayed there all by himself with his canine. The canine is still not. It's like the dog's suffering PTSD from the house.
Wow.
He chased breaking glass all over the house all night long. He was in the hall by the kitchen. That's where the stairs are. And he was getting rocks or pebbles tossed at him from upstairs. And nobody was in the house. So, and he stayed castle by Hill House.
Jeez.
Nothing.
What?
He's never been anywhere. And he'll never go stay there by himself again. He will go there because there's one particular unsolved murder that we're kind of trying to get information on, and he's still in law enforcement. Of course, I'm retired law enforcement, so we're trying to get things. To help solve that murder, or at least lead the police department into the right direction.
For you though, what led you to Haunted Hill? What was it about it for you that drew you to that location? Has it actually?
Let's see. They had a deputy show up at one of the events. She had rocks thrown at her car when she drove away.
Jeez.
Is there any reason, like with any of the previous owners or any of the deaths in the home, where police or law enforcement were involved that would cause that resentment or that anger towards law enforcement? Is there anything?
Yeah, I see Urban Verse box. Cool. I appreciate that. If you like it, or if you don't, give me a review. But the book, especially if you get the Kindle, you will see a really, really good color photo of Toby. That's in you out, and then there's a picture in there.
There's a big
Maria did. There wasn't the event.
Mm.
Can you hear us, Martha, or are you hearing RhiAnna's question now?
I heard the first half of the question.
Let me try and ask again if as far as the law enforcement and the
yours is coming through right now. I can hear it.
as far as law enforcement and just the danger that's always been posed towards them and resentment from the activity in the house. Is there any of the deaths that have occurred in the home or any of the
there
previous?
could be, because like Greg had stuff happen to him. Female deputy had things happen to her. She was in the house. She's an empath, and she came to somebody told her to come on over and talk to us because maybe she had questions, and so she was in the house. And sometimes you'll see, I don't know if it's Toby or something else, if you're in the axe room, and at the time the bathroom there was about a gap, several inch gap, because the door was a lot smaller than the frame. And they had seen glowing eyes through there before. And so while she was there, she put her hand through. And as she put her hand through, something grabbed her hand. And after they did that, she got kicked. She got kicked afterwards. She was kicked afterwards. So, and you think about it, they were doing brothels. They were doing moonshine stuff there. So they were doing things that weren't, during Prohibition and everything, that,
Things that
they wouldn't like the lawman there. They had they had one man who lived there for a while before the people who had it for about 20 years. And there's talk in town that he may have kidnapped and murdered some women. And ability, they may be there buried on property. The her question, I had heard her question. I just heard you now, though.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
To go on with her question, that's probably where where the resentment came from for law enforcement. I don't know if I get a different reaction, and I don't know if it's because I spent over 20 working crimes against children and were murdered there. At least 2 children were murdered there that we know of. Wow. And I think both of them actually have their, we know where they're buried, which cemetery.
I apologize. I know some of the questions are coming through much later, and it seems like we're interrupting you.
Yeah, there's just a big lag for some reason.
I didn't hear the last part of that.
We got one more question here for you, Martha. Would you say that you are consumed by this location?
Could you repeat the last part?
Can you hear me okay?
John, try typing it out in the bottom. She read that one comment, so maybe she can see it quicker than we can talk it or speak it.
There's nothing scarier than a lag.
Mm-hmm. No,
okay, Martha.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you fine. Yeah. I don't know if it's something because I can hear all three of these ladies perfect. I think we'll go ahead and end it right now, folks. Okay. We're going to go ahead and end it right now, folks. Next week, we're going to have an awesome guest on here as well. We'll have Lyle Blackburn, who is a musician. He is a Bigfoot hunter, a cryptid hunter, pretty much. He's a person. He's on TV and things like that. So he's got a band out called Ghoul Town, sing some horror punk stuff that I like. Yes, sir. He's going to be here next Tuesday at 8:00. So tune in for that. And Martha, I will message you right now. Hang on one second. And ladies, I got something to talk to you guys about after the podcast here. Hang on one second.
Okay. Let's keep Martha in touch there.
All I can say is I'm not going to Hill House. I'm not going.
I'd love to.
You're running in, I'm running out. We're going opposite directions.
I'll go.
Okay, you guys run in. I'll be out in the van. We're in a van, and I can stay out in the van.
I'll say we'll have her back on again next. Again, you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to that tappity tap.
That's not me. That's RhiAnna. Thanks. All right, folks. Again, sorry about all this, but next week we'll be back with another guest. We'll have Lyle Blackburn on here. He is, like I said, a cryptid hunter. He is a UFO hunter, Bigfoot hunter, musician, TV personality, and all that good stuff. And we'll be back next Tuesday at 8:00. I want to thank our guest tonight here, Martha Decker, who has helped out with the Haunted Hill House in Mineral, Texas. If you don't know what the Haunted Hill House is, do yourself a favor and go out on YouTube and look it up, all this stuff, because it's very, very, very awesome. And Critina won't go, but I know me and RhiAnna will go to the Hill House. And I know Robert will go with us too. So I'm game.
And Alora.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about Laura. I'm sorry. And Alora. Miss Alora will go.